welcome to the first ever Hat Trick Heroes. We are live and direct. It's been a little while, but we are back ready and refreshed to talk about all things Premier League. And with me tonight, like we always have on a Wednesday, I'm joined by my two, in fact, I don't want to call you guests anymore. You're like my fabulous co-hosts. So let's roll with it. So first of all, we have Wes. Wes, welcome back. How have you been over this summer break?
Well, I wouldn't say it's a break for me. I've been working. It feels like August is feeling like January is probably the best way I can describe it. It feels like it's been about 300 days in August for me. But no, all fun and games. Really excited to be back talking football again. So yeah, very much looking forward to the show and being back with, some amazing people.
No, it should be good. And like I say, we're in a new setting, sort of. If you are jumping on Holly Stockstairs Live, please make sure that you hit the pinned comment in the comment section because it will take you over to our new channel. So make sure you do that because we will be live over there next week. But without further ado, it does also mean I need to welcome on Nelson also to the show. How are you, my friend? How has your summer been?
We are so back. We are so back. New era, new name, but same game. Us three scoring goals and talking football. So it is what it is. I'm very happy. As you can see from by my face, I can finally comfortably wear the shirt, knowing that it's a general podcast. But no, it's so good, Holly. And yeah, my summer's been great. And yeah, I'm just happy to be back talking football.
100%. And it does mean the 25-26 season is fully here. And actually, we've got kind of two games or two game weeks to kind of dissect, which actually puts us in good stead because it means we've got loads to talk about. But also, this channel, this show is also sponsored by the amazing Kofa. So, where's I'm going? Business. So make sure you go check out Kofa as well. But that kind of leads us on because, like I say, we are two game weeks into the 25-26 season and a lot has kind of happened. So, Wes, I want to give me your kind of overall take of how this season has started. For obviously, don't go into full context yet, 'cause we will break it down. But what's your overall opinion?
Yeah, I think it's been a decent kind of first couple of weeks. I think we're starting to understand a little bit more of who's likely to be where. Obviously, it's thrown up some nice little conundrums. I think, especially from a Liverpool perspective, perhaps not defending in the way that we are accustomed to them defending, but still finding a way to win. Obviously, you've got Spurs who have started really, really well. This season, obviously 2 wins from 2. Arsenal obviously finally got their number 9, so to speak, in Gyökeres. I'm just waiting for Nelson to do the celebration. So yeah, I think that, and there's also, I think this season probably more so than the last couple of seasons. I think we're going to have a few different teams that could be in and amongst the sort of relegation scrap. And I feel like for probably the first time in a few years as well, like the promoted teams have a bit more of a chance of actually surviving this time around than perhaps like I say in the last sort of couple of years. So no, it's been a decent start, and I think long may it continue. I feel like even though, for example, Chelsea had a long season, especially with that Club World Cup, they've come back and obviously first game draw with Palace, not the end of the world, but I feel like obviously their game against West Ham, they came out all guns blazing and are sort of ready now to sort of hit the ground running. So there's been a lot that's happened, I think, only in 2 weeks, like you said, and yeah, it's throwing up lots of different questions and different bits and pieces, which is always nice, I think.
I think that's the thing that makes it exciting. It's I wouldn't say obviously 2 weeks you can't really what's the words kind of dissect who's going to finish where, but you kind of get some sort of understanding, like you said, Wes. But Nelson, it does feel like things could be a little bit more open this season.
Yes, I mean that's why they call it the best league in the world, because you never know whether it be fighting for the title, whether it be a top 4 race, obviously top 6 now, and also a relegation battle. You just can't pinpoint who is going to be where. And like Wes said, I think this season has been quite open, but it started off really well, just kind of getting a taste of, every single team and finding out where they could finish this season. I'm very much looking forward to it. I think the fact that as a league, because I read recently that we invested £2 billion this summer. That's how much Premier League teams have spent over the course of the summer. So I think you're going to look at, better quality, better games overall. So I'm very much excited. So we've already had some great games already. We've had some big shocks as well. So, I mean, it's what the league brings us. So you never know. But I think we're in good stead. I think fans, especially no matter what team you support, I think those fans who just love football, I think are in for a good season.
I think it's good when I'm actually watching not just Tottenham games anymore, and that is a first from last season. But Nelson, I'm going to come back to you because obviously I have got the table up in front of me to talk about obviously the teams that are currently unbeaten, and obviously the table doesn't lie. You can see those teams that haven't lost a game yet. I mean, Man City are in there, but we'll ignore them for a second. But how do you is that kind of what you kind of predicted to see at the start of the season so early on?
Apart from Nottingham Forest, I think I expected every other team to be within the top six. So I am not surprised. But I think I think a lot of people are expecting Forest to fall off this season. But if you actually look closely at their recruitment this summer, I think they've actually done fantastic in bringing in certain levels of quality in. If the league had finished today, I'd be a very happy man. But that is not the case, Holly. We have obviously 36 more games to go. But you never know. I think 2 game weeks always you kind of get a suss of the league overall, but I think each fan can probably assess their team after 10. For me, 10 games is the minimum for when you can start assessing your team to think, okay, are we pushing for the title? Are we going to finish in the mid-table kind of section? Are we fighting relegation? For me, 10 games is the minimum to where you can kind of have a good, gauge of where your team is going to finish. So far, I think those teams deserve to be in the top six based on the way they've played. I did message Wes on the weekend and said that there are certainties in life. You get death, you get taxes, and you get Spurs going to the Etihad and winning games. So, it is the fact that I think after the 2 game weeks, I was thinking it would probably be Arsenal, Liverpool, and City as the top 3. But you're lot are doing great so far. And look, I'm all aboard the Thomas the Frank engine simply because I want Wes to be annoyed at, because we heard his rant. For those of you who are tuning for the first time to Hat Trick Heroes, you missed out on a wonderful rant by Wes in regards to Thomas Frank taking over for Spurs. But so far, Hardy, I think things are going to change. I think that's what makes our league exciting. You never know what's going to happen. And I think we're going to get that this season where, even though we're probably 25 games in, we're still not going to know who's going to... I think it's going to be a closer battle in the top half of the table. I think Liverpool ran away with it last season. It was very clear that Slot came in and structured his team, and we already know the quality that Liverpool had when he inherited Klopp's team, but he came in, slotted right in, no pun intended, and actually just went, and then Liverpool just ran away with it. But I think, as I mentioned earlier, the way the teams have invested this summer, I think you're going to have a much more competitive battle for the top places.
I think that's the true thing that we want as fans. We want to see it more, not, oh yeah, they're definitely going to finish there, they're definitely going to finish. It's nice to have it more open. I mean, Wes, are you kind of in the same boat? We'll get onto the Frank triggering session, because obviously last time we had that, I was very much fuming. So I'm going to let you do your thing on the teams that you see at the moment. So how do you kind of feel of it?
Yeah, obviously it is still early days. I think, the way Liverpool are going at the moment, I anticipate they're going to be right up there again come the end of the season. As Nelson said, there are 3 certainties in life: death, taxes, and Spurs beating Man City. So it was nothing new to me anymore, which is really strange. We could be in whatever moment we want to be in. We could be flying. We could be the worst team in the league pretty much on form. We play Man City and turn into prime Real Madrid. It's brilliant. So yeah, I mean, my predictions for the top 4 is Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea, and City. Whatever order that looks like, I'm not 100% yet. Forest have made a decent start. I'll give them that. I think their big thing will be juggling the Thursday, Sundays, that turnaround, whether they can do that. I know Nelson mentioned their recruitment. Obviously signing the likes of Douglas Luiz, James McAtee, which I think is going to be an absolute bargain. Obviously Amari Hutchinson as well, I think is going to be a good player for them. So I think, they've recruited well, but don't tell Nuno because he's still not happy with it. But yeah, I think Forest for me, out of them top six that we see here, I anticipate Forest will probably drop off because of that relentless nature once the Europa League kicks in. Sorry, Palace fans, anyone watching with that, but I feel like once that kicks in and them trying to navigate that, I think will be tricky for them. And I think equally for Tottenham, from a Tottenham perspective, I think the squad depth is, as we know, Holly, it's not quite there, and I feel like that's going to be our big Achilles heel once Champions League kicks in, once the Prem kicks in, and then we've got Carabao Cup, FA Cup. You know, once all of those kick in, I think it's going to be really, really difficult for us, and I don't think we're there yet. And I still feel like, and I was saying this actually earlier, I've been on football camp and I was saying this to some of my coaches, that I feel like City always tend to start relatively slow and then kick into gear. I see that happening again for them this season, and I think that, I mean, they're my pick to actually win the league. But yeah, I think other than that, it's quite nice to sort of see something a little bit different at this stage. But yeah, I think the Liverpool have been. I think Ekitike is really impressed that the impact that he's had straight away. I think's been brilliant. I think, you know, if I'm looking at teams as a cause for concern, I'm looking at, say, Newcastle potentially, Wolves, West Ham in particular. Those two. Bournemouth's an interesting one for me. Obviously, they've lost a lot of high quality players, and I don't feel like they've replaced them. Not all of them, but maybe some of them. They need to do a little bit more, I think, coming into this last week of the transfer window. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm sitting on it at the moment.
I was going to say, because that leads kind of nicely to look into the bottom half of the table. I mean, Nelson, I'll come to you because obviously I find it quite funny that West Ham are sitting rock bottom at the moment. But how have you kind of seen that bottom half of the table kind of shake up? Because I know Wes just mentioned Newcastle, which could potentially be a big shock. But how about the other teams that are kind of floating in around there?
Yeah, I think to start off quickly, I think there's no surprise about 16th place there, so we'll let them sit in 16th place. But yeah, Newcastle for me is a shock simply because they were fantastic last season and they made that late push and they got their Champions League spot. But you can just tell the whole club is distracted by the whole Isak situation. They can't seem to kind of move forward. And from a transfer point of view for Newcastle, they've struggled in the window. Like, they've not got the players. I mean, Elanga, I think, is a great buy, but I think them trying to replace Isak, because clearly they could sense that he wanted to leave, but all of their top targets have gone to other clubs. And I think it's going to be a very difficult season for them as well. As Wes said, with Forest, they're going to have to juggle Champions League midweek games. When they first did that, when they qualified, I think 2 or 3 years ago, they really struggled and they dropped off from their first season when they finished, I think, 4th. Palace, I think Palace are similar to City when Wes mentioned it. They kind of start off slow and they always tend, not Glasner, but I think Palace as a side tend to finish really strong at the end of half of the season. But I think after losing someone like Aberieze, I think it could be a very big task for them to finish where they did last season and obviously defend their FA Cup title as well. Obviously, Ornstein dropped a bomber not too long ago saying that Yeremy Pino from Villarreal is heading over to Crystal Palace, which I think is a great buy. For anybody who doesn't watch La Liga, Yeremy Pino is a fantastic young player. So he could slot right in. So Palace, I think Palace, you're looking at Palace, they're looking safe. Villa, I think that is a shock, but I think Emery will pull it out, and I think they'll do that. I think if you're looking at the bottom 3, I don't think I expected Brighton to be there, but you never know. I think Brighton could be in the battle this season. I just don't think that they've kicked on from a couple seasons ago. I think was it De Zerbi when he came in, and I think they were flying under him. They had the Europa League as well, and I just think they've dropped off since then. I think Wolves and West Ham is going to be a long season for them. I think it's going to be a very long season. I think we saw yesterday how things are looking right now for the Hammers. It's very dark when the fans are fighting with the players, and you just never want to see that in football. So I think it's not a good look right now for West Ham United. They have to fix up quickly. Otherwise, it's one of those cases where they could, unpopular opinion, they could fall down similar to what Sunderland had in recent years when Sunderland got relegated and they went down to League One and went down and just had to work their way back up. It could be like that for West Ham simply because I don't think they've reinvested back into the club, and I think the fans have cried out for quite a while, but I don't think they're happy with the board. So we'll have to wait and see, Holly. I know Wes has his opinion on the bottom six. I'm eager to hear what he has to say so far on what's going to change this season.
Go for it, Wes.
Yeah,
Go on.
yeah. I think I agree with you, Nelson, in the sense that West Ham and Wolves is going to be a bit long. It's not looking good, bro. It's not looking good. Even the game last night, I watched quite a bit of it, and it was just lacking in real quality, I think, from both sides. And I look at the state of the goals that West Ham in particular are conceding at the moment, and it is not even schoolboy stuff. It's worse than that. Like, it's just so basic. So yeah, I think they're in for a long season. Again, Villa. I think Villa's an interesting one. They've not really been able to kick on from their kind of European stints this time round or this summer because of PSR. So that's kind of left them, I think, a little bit short. I'm intrigued to see how Palace juggle Thursday, Sundays as well. Same with Forest, especially with the fact that Palace, we know, as Nelson mentioned, notoriously start slow and then finish strong. Newcastle again, I think, has been an interesting one. I know Nelson mentioned that Isak saga and stuff like that, but I think for me, I think Newcastle were ready to pounce and get players in the door, but they had to wait until July the 1st because of PSR. So I think other clubs sort of stole a march on them a little bit in terms of getting in players. If I look at, say, for example, Chelsea nicking in and getting João Pedro and Liam Delap, for example, two players that were heavily linked with Newcastle. So now I think Newcastle are playing sort of catch up a little bit. I actually think, though, they've actually bought really well. Like Malik Chow, fantastic signing for me. I think he's going to add a lot to that back line. Jacob Ramsey, baller, would have loved him at Tottenham. And I think he's going to be a real key player, especially in around that 10 position. For Newcastle, I think he's going to be wicked for them. And Anthony Elanga, I mean, look at what he did at Forest. Like he was absolutely flying. And now he's got that move and that step up. I think again he's going to be one that will really dovetail well with the likes of Gordon and Harvey Barnes on the other wings as well. So yeah, I think I expect Villa, Brighton, Newcastle, Palace to a certain degree, depends on who they get in the next few days. But I expect them to come out of where they are at the moment and definitely push up the table. But yeah, I think Wolves, West Ham, and it will obviously be 8 other. I'm not 100% sure on who that will be yet, but yeah, I think they're going to be in a right old scrap. And I actually feel like when I've watched Man United play, they look a lot better now than what they did at any point last season. The team structure looks so much better, and I think that's why Man United fans in particular are actually encouraged by what they've seen, because they can see something and they can kind of go, okay, yeah, we can see something. We can always get behind this now. So I think United will come good, and I think they will challenge for those top 6 places in particular.
Yeah, it will be an interesting kind of season, like we've all kind of said. And I know it's still early days, but we're going to throw the question out there. And Nelson, I'm going to come to you because obviously, is there any players that you've completely been like blown away by? I know we've mentioned Etiquette already, which I've probably butchered his name, but there are a few other players. Who would you kind of put in that kind of region?
Well, bar the game in which you guys smashed City at the Etihad, I loved Tijani Reinders' debut against Wolves. It was scintillating. I watched him a lot when he played for Milan and box to box, makes those lovely late runs into the box, but has a technique that most people of his profile wouldn't have. He's like the same build like a Thomas Souček, but just has techers. And for me, I just think he's fantastic. And that game on the weekend, the first game, he was fantastic. I've never seen anything like it. I think he bagged 2 assists and scored a goal. And I think City are I think this is probably people are going to say the replacement to De Bruyne, but for me, he's more of a replacement for Gundogan. I think he fits more of what Gundogan's profile was for City, but just has a bit more technique than Gundogan, and I just think that he's going to be a fantastic. I think for me, he is looking like a contender for signing of the season. So he blew me away. Me and Wes can talk about Ryan Cherky, but he hasn't blown yet, so we're going to wait till that happens. But yeah, Reinders is the only one that's really pounced and really kind of blown me away. I think that debut I hadn't seen before in the Premier League for quite a while. There might be some names that might come back to me, but so far that is the one name that's just popped straight into my mind.
Good shout. Good shout. Wes, is there anybody you want to add into the mixer?
Yeah, because 70% of the world is covered by water, the other 30% is covered by Pape Matar Sarr. He has been phenomenal. Like, even Ali McCoy said on commentary on Saturday, he must plug himself in at halftime. Like, he's just been everywhere. And I think Spurs fans knew about Pap Sarr, but I think now fans of other teams are starting to understand and appreciate how important he is to Tottenham, but also how important he could be moving forwards for Tottenham. We know Tottenham have had a really frustrating transfer window, probably second behind Newcastle in that sense. But to have somebody like Sarr, who is almost willing to kind of be this sort of hybrid midfielder where he could be a 6, he could be an 8, he could be a 10, and he's just going, just tell me to go and play and I'll play there. And I think he's brought the energy that I think every Spurs fan thought he had, but he's now showcasing it a lot more. And I think for me, he's been one that's really stood out. I think Nelson mentioned Rayan Cherky. For me, he's just a number 10. Like, when you see a player that suits a squad number, Ryan Cherky suits the number 10, like, and then some. Like, it's almost like a little bit of I wouldn't say a throwback to an old school kind of number 10 with flicks and tricks. Cherky's got that. He's got that great ability to find pockets, play off 1-2 touch, flicks around the corner. And when I'm watching him, I'm like, football is healing. I'm seeing a bit of flair, a bit of Joga Benito.
Yeah.
Because I think for so long we've been, I wouldn't say as fans we've been programmed to this, but it's very much like pass. Like, there's nobody. When I watch football now, I don't think there's many players that do something off the cuff and out of a structure. But I think Rayan Cherky's the one that can do that. I know he didn't have the best game against Tottenham, but I think again his little cameo against Wolves, I thought he was excellent. And again, different profile to De Bruyne or Bernardo Silva, but he's just silky. And I think he's going to be a player that loads and loads of people are gonna take to. Despite the memes from Saturday's game. But yeah, I think Pap Sarr for me has just been absolutely phenomenal. Maybe a bit of Spurs bias in there, but he's just been absolutely phenomenal. And like I say, 70% of the world is covered by water. The other 30% is covered by Pap Matar Sarr.
No, I like it. And Nelson, does anybody else come to your mind? I don't want to move on if you thought of anything.
I literally had this guy in my head. Oh my gosh. I was heading over to Sunderland because I was very much impressed by he used to play for us actually in the academy, Daniel Ballard, and I was impressed with him on that very first game week. Obviously they had lost to Burnley, and I think those games between your bottom 6 sides, those are the crucial games. I don't think anybody expected them to beat West Ham. I think West Ham I thought they were gonna comfortably win that game, but no, Daniel Ballard really impressed me, and I think he's a bulldozer of a defender. I think he's your old school kind of just like get stuck in sort of defender. So he impressed me, but no, I was thinking more of names that probably have disappointed me so far, but I'm trying to think of names for that too. But Ryan is still for me number 1. He's someone, and I didn't want to be biased. I didn't think anybody in the Arsenal team had impressed me so far, so I haven't really gone down.
Max Doman.
Well, look, we can talk.
He's going to be reading of Mice and Men this year. Like, people just need to take a touch, I think, and have a bit of a calm down.
It's true. The game is gone. If people are thinking that Mouse, I think Max is fantastic, but He's only 15. I think you just got to take time. Ethan's taking his time, and I think Ethan's now a class player. So, so far, Holly hasn't changed my mind. I think Reinders is still number one for me.
No, it's a good shout. I knew who Reinders was. So again, that kind of puts in perspective of how well he's done, because I was excited by him as well. But it does kind of put it on the flip side. Because obviously, Wes, is there maybe a couple of players or one player that stood out for you that just hasn't really cut it for you?
Yeah, I just wanted to also highlight Esteval from Chelsea, coming into the Premier League at that age and delivering an absolute clinic Friday night against West Ham, which is a London derby and it's fierce as well. And I think I actually messaged Nelson saying he could actually be a problem. Like I think there's been a lot of hype about him, and I think just based off of that 90 minutes, I see enough in him to make me feel like he's going to live up to that hype. Like, he's phenomenal. Like, he's absolutely phenomenal. And to go into a Chelsea side, we all know the money and the outlay that Chelsea have had in the last few years. And so to see a young kid, I know that's Chelsea's recruitment policy these days, come into a team, and he's replacing, i.e., like the star man at Chelsea in Cole Palmer. And drop a performance like that, I have to say I was really, really impressed. I love the way he takes the ball and wants to drive, and football's healing again because he's got that Brazilian flair that we want. So yeah, I just wanted to shout out Esteval, and also maybe Granit Xhaka as well. I think the way he's come into Sunderland and just slotted straight in, got that captain's armband, led by example for a side that is relatively young and inexperienced at this level. I think he's been brilliant. In terms of players letting me down, it's quite easy to say Isak, even though he's not stepped on the pitch. I think the way he's conducted himself hasn't been great. I think he could have probably handled the situation a little bit better, but he's, spot the pram in which the toys have been thrown out of type of thing. Do you know what I mean? With Isak. The biggest one that I can probably think of that jumps out is Kanate. Like, the guy doesn't know what day of the week it is. Like, he's miles off it. Like, he is miles off it. And I'm like, if I'm Perez at Madrid, I'm staying well clear at this specific moment in time, because I know what's going to happen. Liverpool fans are going to come for me when he does something. But I'm saying, as of this podcast and as of this moment in time, he is miles off it. And I think this is the reason why Liverpool are sniffing around Mark Gay, because I think Mark Gay going into that back four now alongside Van Dijk, I think that makes almost Liverpool nailed on for the Premier League if they get Gay. I think, like I say, at the moment, my thoughts are still with City, because I think there is a lot of fragility in this Liverpool back line, and the way they're giving up chances as well. The centre backs look so disconnected. It's like you're trying to connect to a Sky broadband router, which is terrible. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's apps, they are miles off it. It's almost as if they've never played together before, never trained together before, never worked on defensive structure. And like I say, I think for me, Kanate just looks like an absolute space cadet, like proper miles off it. He's the one for me that screamed out when you asked that question, Holly.
No, that's interesting. Like you say. But Nelson, how about you? Is there a player or maybe two players that for you you're like, yeah, they're just not cutting it?
All right, we're going to have this conversation because Wes brought it up the other day, and I think it's a fantastic opinion that I don't think the whole nation is ready to hear. Wes had mentioned that Sir Prince Philip Foden has had a bigger drop-off than Dele Alli. And I, for one, agree with him to an extent, because we are talking about a PFA Player of the Year, am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
And a PFA Young Player of the Year, correct?
Uh-huh.
And a champion, treble winning, whatever you want to say. And for me, in my opinion, everyone talks about Jude Bellingham, but for me, I saw him as the leading light for the next generation of England. For me, he was at the forefront of that, especially that season he decided to take over and essentially bag double figures in goals and get double figures in assists. He just took over and took on responsibility. But since that season, we've not seen anything. And he's had a couple of games where he's just come in and played, But for me, it's been a huge drop off considering who he is, what he's been able to produce, and how good of a player we know he is. And obviously, like similar to what Isak this season, he hasn't stepped on a pitch this season, but you'd expect, like, that's why I think the fact that City have bought someone like a Ryan Cherky, for me, that just signals the beginning of the end for Phil Foden at Man City. It's so hard to say that, but I don't want it to happen because he's born and bred City. But at the same time, you just look at it and you think, wow, like they've got Cherky, they got him at a bargain. Phil's done enough as he's done, and now Pep's probably looking at a potential rebuild because Pep's a madman and thinks things all the time. But for me, I think it's been quite disappointing for Phil Foden. For me as a team, I mean, Ezri Konsa did come to mind. He did have a shocking start to the season. But I think considering we just looked at the table, Holly, I think Villa as a whole team just haven't been great. So they, for one, have disappointed me because I think they had a fantastic season last year. And I just thought they would kick on from that, but it just hasn't been the case. But the big person that's come out to me, considering that you asked the question, was probably Phil Foden. I don't know any other players right now off the top of my head because I think it's kind of been an even start for most teams. We could talk about Wolves and West Ham, but I think that they've been disappointing. So everyone else, I still haven't kind of pinpointed. But Phil Foden, just because of the profile of player he is, it's just been very disappointing to see this drop off. It's been a drop off. That's literally the facts. It's not like he's gone crap at football. He's just dropped off immensely, and that's sad to see. So that's who I've gone for.
That is a great shout. Because, like I say, I mean, you mentioned all the things he's won. I'm not saying that he's bored at City, but maybe it's almost like I don't really have the motivation anymore because I've done it all. Maybe he just needs that new kind of challenge potentially. But before we kind of move on to my least favourite part of the show, which is about transfers, because we have lack of them, I want to mention again, also, please make sure you go ahead over to Hat Trick Heroes, the new place for this show. The comment is pinned in the comments, so make sure you go check that out. Hit the subscribe button because from here on in the future, we will be streaming over there. You don't want to miss our beautiful faces. But let's move on, obviously, to transfers. And Wes, I'm going to come to you first. Obviously, we'll talk about transfers in a whole. We'll talk about maybe the best one to start with, in your opinion, that's come to the Prem.
What a question that is, by the way.
Great question.
Based off of what I've seen, Kudus. The original star boy. Forget Bukayo Saka a moment. Listen. Kudos has had some jollof, over the summer because this brother does not get shifted by anybody, and the impact he's had at Tottenham has been frightening. I'm seeing a wide player, Holly, try and beat their fullback. You don't understand how happy this makes me. Because I think the only other wide player Tottenham have realistically that can do that is Wilson Odobert. And I know Odobert doesn't get the loving from Spurs, a lot of Spurs fans. But the way Kudus has just come in, taken to everything, I think he's been phenomenal in that sense. I also, again, like the Granit Xhaka move to Sunderland. I think that's a really smart bit of business. The transfer that probably shocked me the most wasn't Eze, wasn't Morgan Gibbs-White getting a gun pointed to his head by Mr. Marinakis. It's Simon Adingra going to Sunderland from Brighton because Adingra was doing bits at Brighton, and I was really surprised that Brighton decided to let him go, given that the other whippets that they have on the wing, he fitted that profile really, really well. And you both know my cousin is in the academy at Brighton and has, been fortunate to train with the first team a few times. Said he's absolutely rapid, but then he also said that about Mitoma and Minter. And it's like, I'm up against these guys and it's like, it's rapid. So I was a little bit surprised by that one. I think though the transfer that shocked me the most is probably that one. But a little bit of Xhaka because I didn't think he would go to Sunderland. I think Xhaka's got enough credit in the bank where he could have gone to a team higher up the Premier League. So it's a massive coup. I think for Sunderland. But yeah, I think kudos to Tottenham again. West Ham and Tottenham hate each other. They don't deal with each other. The chairmen hate each other with a passion, and the fact that we've gone in and West Ham, the board was saying there's a Tottenham tax and we're not going to sell him on the cheap. The fact that Tottenham get kudos for less than his release clause, I think speaks volumes. I know West Ham are in difficulties with PSR at the moment, but even so, I think there's a part of me that goes, all right, PSR or not. I think similarly to Newcastle with Isak, they're like, no, we're sticking to our guns, and this is our price. We're not going to move on that. So yeah, I'd go with that, to be fair.
Core like that. No, that is some good shouts. I mean, Nelson, I'm going to throw the question to you as well. What's the kind of the best transfer you've seen come to the Prem?
I'm going to be biased here, and I'm going to go for Martin Zubimendi.
He signed last year. Relax yourself. Take a
No,
punt,
no. I'm going to say Martin Zubimendi just because of what we lacked in midfield. That's what I'm going to say. But in terms of who I think could actually be a great signing of the season, considering we discussed teams that are going to be fighting maybe in the bottom half, one team that we didn't mention but have been kind of struggling with relegation in the last few years has been Everton. And I think Everton signing Jack Grealish on a loan, I think, is fantastic business. They've just announced Tyler Dibbling today, I believe. And I think that's a great bit of business because I think Dibbling was probably one of the bright sparks from that Southampton team that really struggled last season. So I think Everton have done a really good bit of business this summer getting those two. And I think if you saw the game on the weekend against Brighton, Grealish was a part of everything. He was instrumental in them getting that first victory at their new ground. And I think he's going to be very big going forward. I am hoping that we get the Wes mentioned Joga Bonito, that kind of feeling that Jack Grealish had when he played for Villa, the freedom that he had at Villa. He was, for me, one of the best players in the country. Like that, he was one of my favorite players. Low socks, big calves, just going at people, like step over left, right. Like you just didn't. I think he was fantastic, and I just hope that we get that. And I think Moyes, is ready to unleash. And I know that I think Jack is probably thinking at the back of his head, it's a World Cup year. I want to get in a squad. I think that's going to play a big part in him having a big season. So for me, Jack Grealish for me has probably been my favorite signing to see apart from my team. And another one that I'm going to point out, because Wes knows I like to watch a lot of French league. So I'm going to point out Arnaud Calimuendo, who's signed for Nottingham Forest. He was an up-and-coming talent for PSG, didn't seem to work out, went to Lens, did great at Lens, then went to Rennes, and then from Rennes came to Forest. And for me, he's just been, last year, I think he bagged either 20 or 19 league goals last season in the French league. For me, the French league has been one of those leagues that have actually translated well in the Premier League in terms of players coming in from that league and actually doing okay compared to other leagues in Europe. So I think he will get up to speed. And I think he is a dark horse for signing of the season. I'm just putting it out there because I'm very... I'm biased towards the French league, but at the same time, I think he is a good bit of business considering that Chris Wood had a fantastic season. And we can talk about Christopher Wood in a moment because of what he does from a fantasy perspective, but I think this Calimuendo guy is going to give him a run for his money as a striker. So that is going to be my kind of dark horse. But so far, Jack Grealish for me has been a great signing for Everton.
I'm glad you've mentioned his name because I definitely would have butchered that name you said. So no, it's interesting. It's interesting the kind of names you said, and I will keep an eye out for them because we will move on to FPL because the first week I did really well. The second week, not so much. And so, Wes, I'm going to come to you because you are the reigning champion so much in game week 1 and 2. You may not have had a great one the first week, but the second one you've kind of pulled it back. So, what have you kind of done this kind of FPL season?
I just learnt my lesson and not played Football Manager like I did at the start of last season, to be fair. Mate, I am absolutely flying. I'm a little bit peeved, though, because game week 1, Monday Night Football, there was a penalty given against James Tarkowski. Now, listen, for me, it's a penalty because he knows exactly what he's doing. His arm is, yes, he tucks his arm in, but he leans into it for me, and I think that's why I think it was given as a penalty. But that cost me 10 points. And, mate, I was absolutely raging because I was about to go top in near enough every league that I was in. So I was fuming. But Shout out Jay Pickers in net, 15 points. Run it up. João Pedro, my Brazilian that I've got a love-hate relationship with, 15 points. Bosh, we're flying. Antoine Semenyo, 12 points. Bosh, get me in. Get it in the mixer. Njai, 8 points. Tarki, 8 points. Gabriel, 6 points. So I've got 89 points game week 2. We are back. We are flying. I finally have a bit of an idea in terms of I know what I'm doing. But luckily for me, that guy Welbs, I'm sticking with Uncle Welbs. Luckily for me, he was on my bench because he did miss a penalty, which then, luckily for me, transpired into 3 of my players, Tarki, as well, getting more points. So yeah, luckily for me, he was on my bench, so it doesn't affect my score too much there. But yeah, I just seem to I feel like, don't get me wrong, there's going to be a point when I'm going to crack, and I'm just going to resort to just getting all the big hitters in. But I'm just being a bit strategic at the moment, picking my players, and then yeah, when I get a little bit frustrated, that's where I'm going to go, oh, sod it. I'm going to get maybe Isak back in, Salah will come back in, you know, Saka after his injuries coming in, and we're just going to absolutely stat pad it. But at the moment, all is well in love and peace.
I was going to say, you've done quite well. I think I need to start taking tips off of you as well. Because, like I say, the first week I was fine. It also made me giggle that you actually remember what every player's points has given you, whereas I can't remember.
Listen, it's that deep, right? I've taken a screenshot of my team so I don't miss that moment where I got 89 points. I'm trying to find. Here we go. Bosh, there it is. 89 points.
Yeah, he sent it to me
There.
too, Ollie.
Oh
There.
my God.
We're
Why don't you
flying.
stick it in a frame and stick it behind her?
Mate, I'm getting it signed, mate. Honestly, I'm getting it signed, mate.
Oh dear. Now, Nelson, I know that you're not taking part in this season because you are like the FPL guru, and I do
Get out.
get like I wouldn't be able to keep it up all season. I mean, I never do. But have you got any kind of words of wisdom for anybody that's kind of taking part in the FPL season?
Well, I like to announce that I'm actually taking part, not in FPL, I'm taking part in the WSL FPL this season. Wes is looking at me like, oh, sod it. It's like
Get back on FPL. You might as well do double
no,
shift.
it's because I'm very much committed to the women's game this time around. But in terms of this weekend's fixtures, I've got some fixtures here. Sunderland are playing Brentford, and Leeds are playing Newcastle, and I think the team that most people should go for. Normally, I always advise target the promoted teams, even if they're facing home and away. But I think this weekend, people might want to look and target United. United are at home against Burnley. So for me, this is the time. If you don't have Cunha, maybe bring Cunha in. I think Cunha has been great so far for United. He's had a couple of chances in game weeks 1 and 2, and I think he could be great for them. Chelsea are facing Fulham. I think João Pedro's in for another good one. I think he's in for another good one. And I also think your lot against Bournemouth. I think you guys started off really well at home. So I think I would target also maybe. So I target probably Spurs players and United players, and then any kind of the teams who are facing the promoted ones. But I mean, don't put it past the promoted teams. They've shown that they can do something this season. So who knows? Leeds could get something against Newcastle at home. So those are my tips. But I think for players I would go for this week, I will go for probably a Cunha. I'd go for I'm trying to think. I'd probably go for Brennan Johnson for your team, just because he just seems to sneak up and get a goal. Like Wes says, that you have a winger that actually does Jogo Benito, but this guy just creeps in back post and gets a goal and assist, and everybody loves him on FPL. Like, make it make sense. Like, it don't make sense. But then you could target a Chelsea João Pedro. I think João Pedro is probably going to be the one who's going to kick off next season. So, I mean, not next season, sorry, this weekend. So I'm already thinking about FPL next season, Ollie. Sorry, but those are my words of wisdom for this week.
I love it. I've already written down those players down so I can get them in. So we're sorted. So technically, Nelson, you are sort of playing because you're sorting me out. So there we go. But no, it's been an exciting season. Obviously, we've got lots of games coming up thick and fast. Like I say, it's been an excellent first kind of debut of the show. I'm very much looking forward to it, to the rest of the kind of season. So like I say, don't forget to go and click that link in that comment section to our new channel, Hat-Trick Heroes, where you can see our face pretty much every Wednesday. But it kind of gives me the last sort of thing to say thank you to everybody that's been watching. We're going to go around the table, say our goodbyes, and where you can find us. So Wes, once again, where can everybody find you? I'm intrigued to see if this outro is going to be a little bit shorter, a little bit longer? Far away.
Yeah, so people can find me on Twitter at Wezo10 unofficial Misha Dembele fan account, as everyone knows. Probably going to be a unofficial Kevin Danso fan account by the time the season's over. And then Instagram's at Wezo32, usually at a Spurs home game. So if anybody does recognise me from anything, please come and say hello. I'm not a monster. I will say hello back. All right. And then anything football coaching related is Kofa MK or Kickoff Football Academy across your socials. So that is Instagram, Facebook, TikTok mainly.
Bosh, lovely stuff. And Nelson as well. Been lovely to have us all back on tonight. Where can everybody find you as well?
Everyone can find me on Instagram at nnatumba25. So that's N, my last name, Natumba, and 25 on Instagram. I will be creating an X account this season. So you will be able to find me on X. Don't know what unofficial account I will become, but we'll have to wait and see. So I will be creating an X account because Hattrick Heroes is live and direct. So bosh.
Yes, no, it's going to be exciting. Like I say, make sure you go follow Hattrick Heroes. I think next week I will actually make sure that I've got them all linked up in the comments, etc., etc. So you can go find us. But no, it's been a good debut show. I'm excited for next week. Like I say, make sure you go and subscribe over at Hattrick Heroes. Make sure you like, comment, all that good stuff. And thank you to everybody that's watched in tonight. And if you're rewatching this, thank you very much. And I need to think of a new outro rather than going up the Spurs, because that's what I normally do. So we'll think of that for next week. But like I say, thank you all again. And until next week, see you soon.